Imagine falling from a cruising altitude of over 33,000 feet with absolutely no parachute, or finding yourself trapped in total darkness at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, slowly running out of air. These represent the most severe medical crises possible, moments where the human body is pushed past the edges of its known physiological limits. Surviving them requires a brutal calculus. Preserving life in these extremes demands a horrific physical or psychological price, trading healthy tissue and function just to buy a few more hours of time. Welcome to QualiFIVE, your destination for discovering the top 5 best in the world, where quality meets quantity. Today, we rank the extreme limits of human resilience and the true cost of staying alive. Understanding this biological calculus is vital. Survival at the edge of human endurance relies on making horrific physiological traits to keep the heart beating. We start at number 5, with Italian police officer Mauro Prosperi. In 1994, he entered a grueling 6-day ultramarathon through the Sahara Desert, only to lose his way when a violent sandstorm hit. Disoriented in 120-degree heat, he spent 9 days in an abandoned shrine. To stave off fatal dehydration, he consumed the only moisture available, the blood and remains of raw bats and snakes he found inside. This decision forced a grim biological trade-off. He acquired a tiny amount of caloric moisture, but intentionally ingested wild, untreated pathogens to do it. The toll was massive. Prosperi lost 35 pounds of muscle and fat. He endured severe dysentery and systemic organ stress, requiring intensive IV rehydration the moment a nomadic family finally found him. When faced with lethal heat, the human body will sacrifice its own tissue and endure massive infection, purely to prevent the core organs from totally shutting down. Number 4 brings us to Christmas Eve, 1971. A lightning strike tore a flight apart over the Peruvian Amazon, sending 17-year-old Juliane Kopke plummeting 2 miles into the dense canopy below. She survived the fall, but her physical baseline was brutal. For 11 days, she waded through crocodile-infested waters while enduring a broken collarbone and deep, untreated lacerations. To stay alive, her brain engaged extreme psychological compartmentalization. She had to suppress panic and override catastrophic pain signals, prioritizing constant forward movement over any attempt at medical stabilization. That movement came with a terrifying cost. Wading through the river exposed her open wounds to severe jungle bacteria and an active maggot infestation. The brain's ability to mute catastrophic pain is a vital, hardwired survival mechanism. It trades immediate medical safety for the higher probability of eventually finding rescue. Coming in at number 3 is Cook Harrison O'Keefe. In 2013, a capsized tugboat dragged him 100 feet down to the freezing bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, trapping him inside a tiny 4-foot air pocket. His primary strategy for staying alive was absolute stillness. He floated in the pitch-black, freezing water, remaining entirely motionless for 60 hours while listening to sharks feed outside the hole. This stillness successfully slowed his core temperature loss and conserved his rapidly depleting oxygen supply. But the medical costs were immense. He suffered severe hypothermia, dangerous nitrogen saturation, and profound psychological trauma from days of total sensory deprivation. Before we reveal our top 2 survival stories, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and let us know in the comments which of these psychological limits would terrify you the most. Your support keeps the top 5s coming. Now, back to the countdown. Extreme sensory deprivation is just as deadly as physical injury. If O'Keefe had panicked, his elevated heart rate would have directly accelerated his oxygen consumption and heat loss, killing him hours before the dive team arrived. Number 2 is Aaron Ralston. In 2003, he was hiking alone in Utah's Blue John Canyon when an 800-pound boulder shifted, pinning his right arm against the canyon wall for 5 days in the scorching heat. As the days passed, his trapped limb lost circulation and began turning necrotic. Out of water, he quickly succumbed to extreme dehydration and delirium. Facing certain death, he executed a horrific mechanical input. Using a cheap, dull multi-tool, he broke the bones in his own forearm and amputated the limb to free himself. The immediate medical fallout was devastating. He induced instantaneous clinical shock and suffered catastrophic blood loss, requiring massive blood transfusions the moment he was rescued. Deliberate self-mutilation represents the most severe physiological trade-off a human can make. He literally severed a piece of his own body to prevent total systemic failure. Our number one spot goes to an absolute anomaly of survival. Flight attendant Vesna Vulovic, who fell 33,330 feet without a parachute after a briefcase bomb tore her aircraft apart in 1972. She was saved by a highly improbable sequence of physical phenomena. Trapped inside a piece of the fuselage and pinned by a food cart, she crashed into heavily forested, snow-covered mountains at a steep angle that buffered the fatal G-force of the impact. Even with that environmental cushion, the blunt force trauma was devastating. She sustained a fractured skull, 3 broken vertebrae, and 2 broken legs. It took extensive emergency orthopedic and neurological interventions to reconstruct her body, allowing her to claim the record for the highest fall survived without a parachute. Even when external physics prevent instant death, the human body still absorbs a catastrophic amount of energy, requiring years of modern medical reconstruction to heal. The moment a helicopter arrives or a diver reaches out a hand, the ordeal has only just begun. Surviving the subsequent refeeding syndrome, profound clinical shock, and severe PTSD takes years. This chart plots psychological isolation against acute physical trauma. All 5 survivors plot into the extreme top right quadrant. This reveals the core nuance of extreme survival. It's never a choice between safe and dangerous, but the calculated execution of the least immediately lethal option. We recommend this kind of psychological resilience training for specialized professionals like military or medical personnel. For the average viewer, your best strategy is to focus entirely on risk mitigation, so you never have to make these kinds of choices. Which impossible medical recovery shocked you the most? Let us know down in the comments. Thank you for watching QualiFIVE. Don't forget to click the video on your screen right now for more amazing top 5s. See you next time. Defying the grave is a hard-won victory of calculated, agonizing biological sacrifice.